We've invited everybody here today to introduce ourselves to you and to our work, what our guiding principles are, what we're about, what we're trying to do. I ask that you hear us out when we're ready to make a presentation.
Very few of us have ever really been hungry for any length of time. Very few of us have been without a shelter for any length of time. We've roughed it a little bit on campouts or whatever. If you can take that memory of what it meant to be a little hungry or a little bit inconvenienced because of the weather, compound that to the 10th power, that's our issue.
Stability of one's life is critical, and if you have no home, the thought of being able to enter into any kind of a treatment regimen or even being able to maintain a healthy diet, pursue physical activities, those all get tremendously more difficult when you have no permanent home, you have no basic physical stability in your life.
You know, how you treat your most vulnerable citizens, I think, says a lot about, you know, a city.
The world will, in my opinion, will always generate a new generation of disenfranchised people who, through a whole wide range of social and economic reasons, end up in transitional homelessness.
So there's not a community, I am absolutely convinced, in this metropolitan area and beyond that doesn't have some type of a homelessness problem going on.
But if we really looked at who is homeless, I think we'd feel a lot of remorse for the way our country is treating its most disadvantaged people.
People in law enforcement will tell you that not only is the kind of the stereotypical drunken, mentally challenged panhandler not the norm in the homeless population, most of those people that you see on the street corners you drive to work aren't even homeless. They've come from their apartment and they're out doing what they do.
Well, I think what happened, and it happened a few years ago when we first started the task force, it was all about, you know, people really didn't want to be bothered with the dirty people. And the dirty people being the homelessness, what we thought were homeless people downtown. That can be certainly different than what actually the homeless issue might be.
I think people make those thought processes or their beliefs about it for many reasons, and a lot of it, I think, unfortunately, is prevalent in society. You know, when we see, especially some of the older movies, and you see, you know, that homeless person, it's some guy who's drunk, who's on the side, you know, kind of huddled up around a bottle, and that is wrong. I mean, that is not the face of homelessness. That could be in a situation, but no. You know, particularly in today's time, the face of homelessness is a family. I mean, it is a mom, a dad. It's a family that may be just like yours, but because of certain situations, they have found themselves homeless.
Our data, for example, shows that in the Kansas City area, 50% of the homeless people counted are families with children.
We go back to when you say the word homelessness, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
We have folks that have lost their jobs, that still have bills to pay, that don't have health insurance.
Parental split-ups, domestic violence, runaways, you know, the whole spectrum of human problems can lead to homelessness.
However, there are families that have planned, that may have had savings, that may have had, you know, family members that find themselves homeless. I mean, if you look at what's going on with some situations with companies, laying off people, 401ks no longer are there. People's savings are eaten up very quickly by healthcare costs. In that regard, you may have been minimally at risk for being homeless and still find yourself in that situation. And
so the root causes are complicated, and it covers just about anything you can think of.
I don't think that anyone had the idea that people weren't doing a good job, but I mean, it's homelessness. It's a huge problem, and we can always do better.
It's been my observation since becoming involved in this process 3 years ago that people who work in these areas, on the mental health side, social services, employment training, housing development, housing resource, are all doing a good job.
We have some, we have Restart, we have City Union Mission, we have Salvation Army, we have some really very high quality services for homeless populations.
But it needs to be more targeted, it needs to be focused, it needs to be improved.
We just have more and more people who are falling through the cracks, and it's hard to find the resources to fund the programs that are necessary.
The numbers we've seen show the homeless population increasing about 100% per year in Kansas City.
As more middle-class people become needy and reliant on social service agencies, they were former contributors.
So these issues, kind of like if you can throw a pebble in the pond and they ripple, those ripples keep going out now. So those are the problems. We can basically equate the ripples as problems. They just compound themselves.
So it's not getting better, it's getting worse. It's being managed, but we can do better, and we should.
How we as a community respond to that reality, how we intercede, how we do interventions, how we get people back on a pathway to being healthy, says a lot about us as a community. Says a lot about us as a city.
One of the reasons that this task force was created was a recognition that we can, should, have to do a better job than what we're doing now. In 2007, back up 2 years, in 2007, Chief Corwin from Kansas City and his counterparts from Independence and Kansas City, Kansas, began to convene a series of meetings among people who were concerned with homelessness issues.
We got together, started talking about what a wonderful opportunity this might be to get together the people that are involved in the homeless issues, the mental illness issues. Let's get around the table and see what this really looks like. And as we talked for more than 2.5 years, our mission was to get more people around the table to talk about this particular issue.
I was there and heard it, and from there I said, hey, I am willing to sponsor a resolution that would bring together these types of folks and expand outward to put together a plan to try to look at some of the long-term and short-term objectives.
And what came out of that conference was a recommendation, a request to the Kansas City, Missouri City Council to establish this task force.
And so from that pledge, I went forward and I got some co-sponsors, and we put together a resolution that put together the task force on homelessness. And that's what we have today, and that's what we're working on.
How do we approach our work?
Well, we just need to be smarter. We need to be more strategic in how we solve the problem. I think we really do need a roadmap on what this community is going to do to address the issue, and then be resolute in following that roadmap.
I think we approach it by starting at a fairly high level of what are the principles that we believe in as a community, as the task force, which we have done. And from there, then say, how do those principles get implemented with respect to housing, finance, services, prevention, advocacy?
A large part of it is going to be focusing on education and why it matters to care about this problem.
So as we do our work, we have to make sure that we understand the globalness of what this issue is all about.
And to make it a multi-jurisdictional, metropolitan-wide effort.
We'll have, at the end of our work, we'll have specific recommendations for the policy decision makers to start looking about how they want to more efficiently change policy and make policies and programs more efficient.
If we address this problem appropriately, it will filter into economic development. It will filter into our health care saving money for our healthcare providers, saving money from our mental health providers. So I think we can show that this is a good investment, and it's an investment that's going to pay off to other industries or other segments, because if we solve this, we will solve some of the challenges that they face as well.
The folks that have been working on this issue for a long time, I think we did a real good job of identifying those people and getting folks from all over that, basically a really good panoramic picture of the issue.
We understand that solving homelessness, if there is a solution to be found, is going to take more than just the relatively small number of people who are involved in providing services.
And that's why we're involved, because we think very strongly that the business community can bring new ideas. It can help look at best practices. It can help politically and from an advocacy perspective, bring in new partners who haven't been there before. It can bring pressure upon elected officials to participate in solutions.
Because it's painfully clear to anyone who works in this area that homelessness is a multi-pronged, multifaceted, multi-jurisdictional, interdisciplinary calling that is not cured or even addressed by a panhandling ordinance, for example.
One of the things that the task force is, what's key about it, is that it partners with other municipalities, other jurisdictions that surround Kansas City. Because we know that homelessness doesn't know a state boundary, it doesn't know what the state line is, it doesn't know when you're exiting Kansas City and going into Jackson County or Cass County.
What I see on the task force, without exception, are people who are genuinely concerned and care about this work and are convinced that we can, should, and will come up with tailored solutions for our community, for our metropolitan area, that work. The goal is to end homelessness. We know that it's solvable.
We're not going to fix it overnight, but we are going to be very methodical about how we go about our business.
I am optimistic, and I really believe that we're going to make some changes.
And I'm sure the mayor's task force will play a major role in helping us really begin to connect the dots so that we don't have a lot of autonomous pieces out here who are trying very hard to find ways to work together and leverage one another's resources.
I think you will see the ability to create public-private partnerships to create and increase access to stable and affordable housing, to increase the availability, both geographically and within walking distance, of needed services for people in transition, whether it be mental health, substance abuse, employment training, re-education, and so forth, that people will buy into that, and that social impact investing that I spoke of earlier is something that will follow.
Now that's a huge endeavor, but we need to look at ways that we can do better at helping and limiting homelessness.
I think those people want the same thing everyone else wants. They want a safe place to lay their head, they want hope, they want opportunity.
That they can look toward achieving their potential.
But they can't, and they can't until their lives get out of crisis and out of transitional homelessness and onto a pathway of hopefulness and health.
Our ability to be a healthy, safe city where we have families who want to come here, where we have children who grow up, who believe that they can succeed in Kansas City, all of that will be severely limited if we do not do anything about this.